come along and read The Assassin's Blade with me by Sarah J. Maas. I read Throne of Glass last month, absolutely loved it. This is actually the prequel, and I really love it because it's a compilation of 5 short stories. I'm not one for short stories. I actually do not prefer to read short stories, but since I already have a background on the main character, her name is Celaena Sardothien, I'm already invested. I think the problem I have with short stories is that it's not enough time for me to build any type of investment in the story, and it's not enough time for me to actually care, develop any feelings for the characters whatsoever. But because I read Throne of Glass, I'm now going back into time and see what her life was like before she got sent to that prison in Dovier. So I just finished reading the first one. It's Celaena and the Pirate Lord. It's only like 77 pages long, and I absolutely loved it. It is so, so good. If you're planning on reading this book and don't want to hear any spoilers, please skip ahead to one of my other videos because I want to talk to you a little bit more about the very first short story, okay? If this book happens to be a pick for your book club, or this is something that you are required to read for some reason, but really don't want to dive into the actual reading of it, I'll go ahead and give you a synopsis of the story. It's just her and Sam along for this journey. So if you've read Throne of Glass, you know that Celaena had something of a romance with Sam, but we don't really know anything about it other than we know that Sam perishes somehow, and it left her feeling brokenhearted completely. In this story, Celaena and Sam, this is before they actually develop that romance between the two. You actually don't see any romance between them whatsoever. Celaena and Sam are sent to go do a deal with the Pirate Lord, and Arobynn is the one that sends both of them out there together. When Celaena and Sam arrive, they are surprised to realize that they are engaging in a slave trade, which they are both wildly against. They don't want anything to do with slave trading. Bless you. Arobynn, by the way, is the one who trained Celaena. She is like his right-hand assassin. She's the best of the best, and it's because she was trained by Arobynn. So apparently Arobynn has sent them to collect all these slaves, which for some reason they were not made privy to prior to venturing over to go visit with the Pirate Lord. So Celaena and Sam devise a plan to free the slaves. They have zero care as to how Arobynn's going to take that. They do not care how this is going to impact the Pirate Lord. The slaves are being held on this ship, but at the mouth of the bay, there's this huge chain that is blocking ships from either entering or exiting. So Celaena and Sam, in order to free these slaves, they need to disengage that chain. It's really cool because Sam actually ends up being the hero in this story. He's the one that ends up dropping the chain because Celaena ends up getting into a tangle with the Pirate Lord. When Celaena and Sam realize what type of business deal they're about to encounter, they find a way to free the slaves. So they actually sneak off to the ships where the slaves are currently being held. They let them all loose, and they come up with a plan and tell them, hey, set sail at dawn. We're going to distract the Pirate Lord as well as the entire crew. So once that sun comes up, you start making your way to the mouth of the bay. We will lower the chain. It'll allow you to escape. And then your lives are in your hands. So they end up going to the tavern where all of the pirates are having a really good time. Now, Celaena and Sam devise a plan to where they're going to pretend to engage in this kind of festivity. They're going to have a great time. They're going to party it up. Sam is going to pretend that he's drinking and going to be completely obliterated and just drunk out of his mind, but there's really a hole at the bottom of his beer. He ends up faking his own drunkenness, and they're able to distract all the pirates while the slaves are getting ready to make their grand escape. Of course, things start going wrong. Celaena starts a brawl at the bar in hopes that it will distract all of the pirates from the ships that are actually starting to flee, which have all the slaves on board. But of course, the Pirate Lord is a little bit more keen, and he kind of picks up on what's going on. He tries to intercept them. So Celaena is now engaged in this fight with the Pirate Lord, while Sam goes ahead to try to go to the tower to lower the chain. Now, Sam is the hero of this story, which it didn't really bother me. I know this story typically follows Celaena, and that's fine, it does, but Sam is the one who goes to the tower, finds a way to lower the chain, and to defeat all of the guards, which there's a lot of them. I don't know how he does it. Sarah J. Maas doesn't really go into that in depth because the story does revolve around Celaena, not Sam. But anyways, in the end, Sam figures it out. He fights valiantly. He gets that chain lowered. The slaves are now free. And that's where the story ends. So we don't know what happens next. I'm about to read Celaena and the Healer and see if that kind of picks up where this left off, or if it's totally separate, because I don't know how Arobynn is going to react to this sudden deviation to his plan. So I'm very curious to find out. Anyways, I'm absolutely loving it. I think that this is such an incredible series. And part of that is because I love Selena's character. I absolutely love her. And she's a very strong, very witty female character. And let's be honest, she's just an overall badass. I think I'm going to have to pick up at some other time when he's feeling a little less chatty. Thanks. Okay, I just finished the second short story in The Assassin's Blade. Absolutely loved it. It is super short. You can get through it super quick. There's really only two main characters in the story. It is Selena, of course, and the healer, Irina, which I think is pronounced Irina. It's spelled with a Y, Irina. I'm going to go with Irina. I really struggle with fantasy names sometimes, but we'll go with that. For some reason, when I read the title of the short story, The Assassin and the Healer, I was expecting that the healer was going to be this elderly woman that Selena meets in a hut. Definitely not that. But Selena, the story actually picks up right where the first short story leaves off, where, of course, Selena and Sam end up freeing the slaves. Now they have a lifelong enemy of the pirate lord. So Arabin has sent her to go train with the Mute Master. So now Selena, after being pretty much beaten to a pulp, is en route to this destination, the desert somewhere, and she stops in this town called Inish, which it's pretty much a hovel. It's nothing to brag about, but this is where she encounters Irene. So Irene, unfortunately, she ended up there kind of by mistake. She was en route to go train at one of the best healing schools, and on her journey over there, she ran out of funds, so she ends up getting a job at this really trashy tavern called the White Pig. Ends up just kind of getting stuck there for pretty much a year. Her magical abilities came from her mother, but her mother was actually killed and burned for having these magical abilities, because if you remember from Throne of Glass, the king had actually banned all magics, and if anybody is caught entertaining the idea of magic, they are executed. When Irina's mother was burned for using magic, Irina was able to escape. So her plan was to go to this school and study and learn how to be a really amazing healer. And she gets stuck in Inish and ends up working at this terrible bar. Her safety is pretty much always at risk. These patrons are not stand-up people, and she's always having to avoid all these really nasty people that are really just not polite and not gentlemanly, if you know what I'm saying. So Selena stops there on her way to the Mute Master. She is getting ready to board a ship the following day to go on with her journey, and she encounters Irina. She sits at the back of the bar, and she's really just not really eating this awful food that she's being served, kind of drinking this really terrible beverage, beer-like beverage that they've given her. And she's watching Irina, and she could see something kind of special about her, but she kind of just dismisses it. Selena is frustrated at this point. She did the right thing, and now she's having to pay the price of freeing the slaves. Sam is not in this short story. Selena and Sam were separated. She actually has no idea what happened to him. So I know that he probably comes back at some point, probably in the next short story. But Selena is just trying to heal from the trauma of everything that's been happening recently. And she's looking for a fight. So she's in this tavern. She's keeping an eye out. She's watching how Irene is kind of evading these men. And so Selena, she should retire for the night. She should just go to bed, wake up, board her ship, be on her way, right? But she ends up looking for trouble. So Irene is starting to kick patrons out, and she's getting ready to clean up, and she's outside in the alley when she is met by several other men who are trying to steal from her. So of course, this is where enters Selena and all of her badassery. She comes and saves Irina, and all she incurs from that fight, and it was just her versus several other men, and of course she takes them all down. It was really easy. She kind of wasn't really challenged by this fight, but she did get a slice to the arm. And Irene is so impressed with her and just wants to repay her some way for saving her life. So she offers to heal her. So she brings her into the tavern, and where she has this salve and bandages, and she bandages Selena up. She notices that she is just covered with bruises, and she really wonders about this woman's backstory, but obviously doesn't really ask many questions. So her and Selena, they end up getting along fine, but at the end of the story, they do part ways. Selena was able to leave a bunch of money with all of the men that she defeated who were originally trying to rob Irene. She took all their money, and she left a substantial amount with Irene. And she had gotten to know her well enough to know that her end goal was to go to the school for healing. And so she left her a big bundle along with the brooch that Arabin had given her worth a substantial amount. She left that all to Irene with a note just pretty much telling her that she should pursue her dreams and that she shouldn't get stuck and that she shouldn't settle for a life that she never really wanted. So now Selena is on her way to meet the Mute Master. So that was it. I loved it. I hope I did it justice. I'm not trying to convince readers to read this book because I really enjoyed it. So here we go. On to the next. Okay, so I just finished the third short story in this compilation of 5 short stories. This is The Assassin and the Desert. This is where Selena ventures across the desert in order to go train with the Mute Master. This is part of Arobyn's punishment for what she did in that first short story where she freed 200 slaves and then ended up hurting the relationship between Arobyn and the Pirate Lord. So as you recall, the other short story that I just finished, that was The Assassin and the Healer, that's what happened en route to the desert. So now she's actually made it through the desert and to the keep of the Mute Master. This is a very odd cultural experience, I will say. So the Mute Master doesn't speak a word, neither do the majority of these people that train under the Mute Master. And the Mute Master, everything is kind of on his terms. He will invite those that stay with him to train with him. You don't just approach the Mute Master and demand lessons. And so Selena's goal here, or Arobyn sends her here, in order to get a letter of approval from the Mute Master, which apparently is very difficult to do. It's a little weird. I don't know. This story, I really enjoyed it, but it is a little odd. This story mainly revolves around Selena and this new character named Ansel. She is the female friend that Selena ends up getting very close to in this short story. There is something weird about Ansel, and I picked up on that very early on in the story. I don't know if it was just me, but something seemed a little bit off. I really did want that friendship for Selena because she apparently has very few female friends. It's a really cute kind of friendship, but I just always felt intuitively that something was off. And I was correct. In the end, Ansel does betray Selena and pretty much the entire keep with the Mute Assassins. I have to say, I missed Sam in this short story. I was hoping that he was going to come back in this one because you see Sam in the first short story. He is absent for the second short story. He is still absent for the entirety of the third short story. And you really do miss his presence. I was hoping that he was going to make an appearance back in this one, so I was really missing that romance. So I'm really hoping that he's going to be appearing in the fourth short story. So Selena makes it to the Mute Master. She's expected to train with the other Mute Assassins, and she ends up having to do these drills where she is running through the desert. And for being such a world-renowned assassin, she's really struggling to keep up with all these other Mute Assassins who are just running through the desert. They've been doing these drills for quite some time, and so they're very comfortable with it. And so she is really battling. She's trying to capture the attention of the Mute Master in order to obtain an invitation to train under him, so that way she can get her letter of approval. In this meantime, she is building a really close friendship with this Ansel character. They are rooming together and they seem to get along pretty well. There is beef between Lord Barrick and the Silent Assassins. And there's kind of this back and forth where they kind of take turns attacking each other, and Lord Barrick sends a group of men to go attack the Silent Assassins, but it's really just for show is what I picked up on. Is the Silent Assassins, they end up combating this intrusion, but they don't actually end up killing or hurting anyone. They really just kind of keep them at bay. So there's kind of this back and forth, and Ansel, for some reason, was chosen to kind of communicate between Lord Barrick and the Mute Master. And I found that to be a little bit odd. I wasn't sure why she was doing all the communication, but somewhere along the line, she ends up turning on the Mute Master and the Silent Assassins and ends up really kind of working for Lord Barrick in a way. There's this other minor character. His name is Mikhail. Him and Ansel allegedly have a romance going on. You realize later on that it is incredibly one-sided. Mikhail is really like in love with Ansel. Ansel really doesn't seem to care much about him because she ends up killing him in the end. And then Selena has captured the attention of the son of the Mute Master. His name is Ilias. Now, Ilias doesn't say anything, and it's kind of weird the way that they communicate. He uses all these hand gestures and kind of like a sign language of sorts. And Selena can try to interpret what he's saying, but in reality, she truly has no idea what this man is saying to her. Now, they almost share a moment where they kiss, but this is when Selena starts thinking about Sam, and she's starting to realize, okay, maybe I have stronger feelings for Sam than I ever realized. So then you really want him to come back very soon. There's actually this really cool part where they have a festival at the Silent Assassin's Keep, and everything is silent, but they're still dancing, and it's this very odd ritual, and I don't know, I kind of liked it. Selena, she's a party girl, she likes to dance, she likes to enjoy herself, she likes to have a good time, so she's participating in this very strange festival where everybody is silent, but everyone's still acting as if it is a perfectly normal festivity. Ansel ends up inviting Selena on this communication errand that she has to run for the Mute Master. Celaena goes along with her, but Celaena isn't invited to actually go into the household of Lord Beric. She has to wait outside, so she ends up at a market somewhere, which is actually kind of cool. She meets a merchant who's selling spider silk. This merchant ended up trading 20 years of his life in order to obtain the spider silk. He offers Celaena a job to go hunt down this spider. Apparently they're huge, they're giant, and he wants her to reclaim those 20 years of his life. She has to think about it. She's in the middle of something. She can't just run off and go confront this spider and get his years back. But he gives her a little sample of spider silk to take with her and just says, hey, as a reminder. And so Celaena's enjoying the market while Ansel is communicating with Lord Beric, which again kind of put me on edge. I thought that's a little bit weird. Now, when they go to take their leave, Ansel meets up with Celaena again. They steal two of Lord Beric's really nice horses. I forget what they're called, but they're really big, very expensive horses. Now, this was all Ansel's idea, but she ropes Celaena into stealing two of these horses and bringing them back to the Silent Assassins. Celaena knows that she's going to get in trouble for this, and she really just owns up to the fact that she was involved. And instead of getting Ansel in trouble, she ends up saying that it was her idea. And she ends up telling the Mute Master, hey, this was not Ansel's fault. This was all my idea, blah, blah, blah. For some reason, the Mute Master is impressed with Celaena in that moment in time. You kind of get the feeling that he knows that she wasn't behind that whole idea, but he appreciated her for taking the blame for it, I suppose. But he ends up inviting her to train with him. So then he takes her on this journey. Now Ansel is kind of feeling some type of way about that because she's been with the Silent Assassins for who knows how long, and she's never been invited to train with the Mute Master. So she's feeling a little jealous about that. But Celaena, she has an objective to achieve. So she goes and starts training with the Mute Master. He's teaching her movements of the serpent. She is mimicking the movements of this asp in order to increase her agility, learn a different style and type of fighting. Ansel ends up drugging Celaena. She ends up giving her some type of poison, not to actually kill her, but just to knock her out. Ansel dumps her in the middle of the desert and says, hey, it's easier this way. I'm so sorry that it came to this. You have your letter of approval from the Mute Master. It's in your bag. Here, take the horse. This is yours. Go. So Celaena is totally thrown off by this. She hadn't even finished her training with the Mute Master, and she's being sent away. I think it's like 5 days early. She was expected to be there for a little bit longer and to earn that letter. And so the letter, she takes a look at it. It is sealed with the Master's seal of approval. And so she ends up taking off, and she can't help but wonder why. Why was she released early? Why was she sent away? Did she do something wrong? In the end, she has what she needs, and so she starts to walk away. In the end, Celaena realizes something is terribly wrong. She ends up going back to the assassins, to the Silent Assassins, and ends up saving everybody because Ansel, we find out, was working with Lord Beric, and she was promised his assistance in getting revenge for her country. So Ansel had ended up poisoning the Mute Master. It's funny how everyone falls for just getting poisoned, even though they're supposed to have training in this area. It happens to Celaena a lot. It actually happened in Throne of Glass as well at the very end of the book, and then now she's been poisoned again, didn't realize it. But Celaena ends up swooping in, saving the day right before Ansel is about to murder the Mute Master, and actually his son Ilias is watching, and so Celaena saves the day, and she's actually getting ready to take out Ansel, but she decides not to. She considers Ansel, regardless of her betrayal, she considers her a very dear friend of hers, and so she tells Ansel, you need to get out of here. I'm going to fire this arrow at you. If you have this amount of time to get out of here, and then I'm firing at you. Well, she ends up giving her a little bit of additional time because she actually does not want to kill Ansel. So as a thank you, the Mute Master ends up paying Celaena a huge sum of gold. Celaena is able to come home with 3 chests full of gold as a thank you for saving the life of the Mute Master and his son Ilias and pretty much every other Silent Assassin there. So I really enjoyed this short story. It wasn't quite what I was expecting, but overall I thought it was really good. I was missing Sam, so I'm really hoping he comes back in the next short story, which is called The Assassin and the Underworld. I just finished The Assassin and the Underworld. This is the 4th short story in this little prequel. You know what? It doesn't really read like a bunch of short stories. It really is just a novel. I mean, yes, they are broken up into 5 different parts, I would say, but I wouldn't call any of these short stories because they are all associated with each other. Each story picks up right where the previous one leaves off. So honestly, it just reads like a novel. I wouldn't even call it a compilation of short stories, even though that is really how it's advertised. The 4th story, finally, Sam comes back. I've been waiting for him to come back because I know that Celaena and Sam have a history. It's mentioned in Throne of Glass. and I was really excited to see where this love story goes. It's actually very interesting because Celaena doesn't realize the depths of her feelings for Sam. It takes her a really long time to sort out exactly how she feels about him. She feels that they loathe each other pretty much the majority of their relationship. They've known each other a very long time. Sam, on the other hand, he is in love with Celaena, and he has been for many, many years. And this is a weapon because Arobynn knows it. He knows how Sam feels about Celaena. So in the first story, after Celaena and Sam end up working together to free the 200 slaves, Arobynn ends up beating Celaena into a bloody pulp right in front of Sam. And that was part of Sam's punishment because Arobynn knows exactly how he feels about Celaena. Arobynn is a very terrible villain. We know just how much we despise Arobynn in The Assassin in the Underworld. This one was actually a pretty good story, but I felt a little unsatisfied with the reunion of Sam and Celaena. They went the entire summer without each other. They both missed each other. And when they finally encounter each other again, it was not hostile, but it certainly was far from warm and fuzzy, you know what I mean? I was hoping that they'd have a different type of reunion, but it just wasn't written that way. So I felt a little let down by that reunion, but luckily Sam is back, thank goodness. He was the character that I was waiting for to return. Celaena comes back from the desert, and Arobynn is pretty much groveling for her forgiveness. He is sending her gifts. He is sorry for how he treated her and how he beat her up, or so it seems. So he is just overwhelming her with all these gifts and apologies, and Celaena's a little bit thrown off by all of that. Celaena comes back with those 3 trunks of gold. She uses that to pay off her debt to Arobynn so she can be finally free of him. She also ends up at one point in the story selling the horse that she came back with from the desert in order to pay off Sam's debt to Arobynn. And then the only remaining thing is, even though they're free of Arobynn, they're not free of the guild necessarily. And then also, if you remember in the previous story, Celaena comes by a little piece of spider silk. What you realize is that she ends up asking a seamstress to sew that into Sam's suit right above his heart, and that actually ends up saving his life one day because he gets shot, happened to be shot right there in the chest, and that piece of spider silk that was woven into his suit ended up saving his life. Now in return, Sam ends up saving Celaena's life as well because Arobynn, as part of this apology, he ends up giving Celaena and Sam a contract in order to take down this dude who is allegedly going to be engaging in a slave trade of some sorts. And Arobynn knows, obviously, how Celaena and Sam feel about that because of what happened in the first short story. So he ends up contracting them as a way to say, I'm sorry, you're right. Here, this is a contract that you were going to want because it's going to take down this guy who's big into the slave trading. What is his name? This dude's name is Donoval. So Donoval allegedly is about to engage in a slave trade agreement, and so Arobynn gives Celaena the contract to take him down. She is really eager to do so because both her and Sam have certain feelings towards slavery, and so she goes about this mission without asking enough questions. Now, I could see something was wrong right off the bat, and I don't know what it was that tipped me off necessarily, but I'm like, something's weird. I don't think that Arobynn, just out of the kindness of his heart, all of a sudden has a change in feeling for the slave trade agreement or whatever it is. So I don't know. I felt suspicious the entire time. Well, Celaena ends up getting caught, and thank goodness Sam was watching out for her because Celaena gets trapped into the sewers that are about to be flooded, and she almost dies. Sam ends up finding her, pulling her out, reviving her, and that's when they both start to realize, okay, we need to communicate our feelings towards each other. Unfortunately, Sam and Celaena were, in fact, successful in taking out this Donoval character, only to realize in the end that he was actually one of the good guys. He was in the middle of developing a bunch of safe houses for these slaves to hide out until they could find safety. So that was a really big letdown. And now Celaena and Sam, they are both determined to leave Arobynn behind forever. So Celaena ends up buying their freedom. She buys her freedom with all 3 trunks of the gold, and she buys Sam's freedom with the horse that she ended up selling. Now her and Sam are going back to this apartment that she ended up purchasing, which I kind of felt a little weird about that. I don't know, the word apartment just seems so pedestrian for a novel in the fantasy realm. I don't know, maybe that was just me. Also, Sarah J. Maas's writing style doesn't necessarily bother me. I am noticing more and more, though, just some of the things that are kind of quirky about her writing style. She likes to use italicized words a lot, just for the emphasis, and I get why she does it, but it is almost on every page. There's an italicized word somewhere. Kind of a quirky writing tool that she uses throughout the book. So in the end, I really did like it. This was the second to last short story in this book. Overall, I did feel like that reunion between Sam and Celaena was somehow lacking, but I'm really hoping that their love story will blossom in the final story, which is The Assassin and the Empire. Okay, I am almost done with the final short story in The Assassin's Blade. It's called The Assassin and the Empire. I have about 50 pages left, and I just had to drop in and I have comments. I have a couple things that I'm noticing in this book. I was really craving a good romance in this story. This one, so far, unless something major happens in the last 50 pages, it's kind of falling short. While Celaena and Sam are now finally together, I don't know, there's something missing in their relationship, and I can't even tell you what it is. I don't know if it's maybe just missing nice banter, because that's something she had with Prince Dorian in Throne of Glass, so maybe that just seems like her and Sam are like, it's a much more serious romance and love story. They don't seem to agree all the time, and it's causing this tension between the two of them. Also, I think one thing that's really throwing me off is that Sam is really pushing Celaena to do this incredibly dangerous job for the both of them together. They're supposed to take out these really two high-profile crime lords, and Sam is really pushing Celaena to do it, even though these two men are notorious for being the two most dangerous men in the country. And for somebody who wants Celaena to be safe, and he's always worried about her well-being, he's really kind of pushing her to do this job, and she's a little reluctant. For being Aderlin's assassin, she is awfully reluctant to do this job, but now they're feeling forced to do this job because it's the only way that they can afford to pay their way out of the guild. They might be free of Arabin, but they are not free from the guild. They're living together in this little apartment in the slums. They are wanting to leave, and they can't do that comfortably without paying their way out of the guild. They feel like wherever they go, Arabin's going to find them, the guild is going to find them, they'll probably be executed. So they just want to be free of that. Sam is kind of doing these little fights in a place called the Vault, I think. It's just like this underground fight club where people are making bets, and he's making money by winning all these fights. I don't know. It's okay. I think from a romantic perspective, it is missing something. And I think it is just missing that witty, charming, really fun banter, and maybe it's just too serious for me. I mean, I get it. This is a story about assassins. It is a very serious subject to be writing about, but I don't know. I just feel like something is missing. So anyways, Celaena ends up she ends up getting on board with taking this job so that way they can make all this money. They're working on trying to eliminate this sadist that they've been trailing, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see if they're successful, but I'm sure, we already know that Sam doesn't make it. So I know that the last 50 pages, because if you've read Throne of Glass, you already know that Sam passes away somehow. So I'm assuming that this is exactly how we find out. I got 50 pages left. I'm really excited to see what happens. But I just had to comment on the romance and feeling like simply something is lacking. Don't know what it is. I really just think it's that lack of really cute banter, but we'll see what happens. I've finally finished The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. I really enjoyed it. However, it wasn't perfect. If I'm being totally honest, I enjoyed Throne of Glass a lot better. Throne of Glass, I gave a solid 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. This one, I'm sitting at a solid 4-star rating, and I will tell you why. First of all, I really felt like the romance was lacking in this book. I was really looking forward to learn more about Celaena and Sam's history together, but I really just felt like there was some key elements that were missing. I missed the banter that you see in Throne of Glass between Celaena and Dorian, even also Celaena and the captain of the guard, Kale, however you say his name. She had some really cute conversations and some really awesome banter between those two guys, but her and Sam just aren't that way. They don't really have that kind of relationship. They also end up arguing a lot, especially in the last short story, Celaena, or I keep saying Celaena in the Empire, but it's really the assassin in the Empire. And I don't know, their relationship wasn't really all that exciting or impressive to me. And I'm sorry, but Sam tells Celaena several times throughout the story that he loves her, and she never says it in return. And that always really bothered me, because I thought surely she's going to say it to him before he ends up perishing, but that just simply isn't true. In this final short story, of course, if you've read Throne of Glass, you know that Sam unfortunately doesn't make it. Him and Celaena end up taking on a job that's supposed to pay them enough money so that way they can leave the Assassin's Guild. So that's the whole reason that Sam is really pushing this job. But Celaena knows just how dangerous this is. So Sam ends up convincing Celaena eventually to take on this job where they have to take out 2 people. One of them is the crime lord. His name is Jane, which that's his last name. So before you think it's too frilly and girly, that's actually his last name. So Celaena is tasked with taking out Jane, and Sam is tasked with taking out this really sadistic guy named, oh my gosh, what is his name? Farran, Farran, Farran. So Sam is tasked for taking out this Farran guy who is just this sadistic, tortured dude. And so his job is first. He's going to be taking out Farran first, and then Celaena the next day is supposed to take out Jane. Well, Celaena ends up being successful. Sam, unfortunately, gets caught by Farran, and he is tortured for an entire night. And Celaena, I honestly just felt a little bit disappointed in her. She, yes, kind of goes and looks for Sam, but mostly she's just waiting around the apartment thinking, well, what's with the delay? And she ends up falling asleep a couple of times. Then in the morning, she goes out and looks for him, can't find him. Arobynn ends up showing up, telling her, I'm so sorry, he didn't make it. Now, Celaena, she is devastated, obviously. She goes out seeking revenge now, but she wants to take out both this Farran guy in revenge for Sam, and she also wants to take out Jane, the crime lord. Well, Celaena is partially successful. She ends up taking out Jane. She jumps through the window of Jane's house only to find that it was actually rigged and it was kind of a booby trap set up for her. They were fully expecting her. They made it seem like she could take them by surprise. She thought that she was jumping into a dark window where nobody was awake or anyone was even really present, but they were all just sitting there waiting for her. So she ends up killing Jane, which was all part of the master plan. So it turns out that Farran was working with Arobynn, which we hate Arobynn. We already know that. We hate this dude. But he was working with him because he wanted Celaena to take out Jane so that way he can take over as the most notorious crime lord of all time. So Celaena helped achieve that goal. So once again, she was duped. And I'm thinking, okay, Celaena, come on. Like, we got to figure things out a little bit sooner. She is young, so I guess that does kind of make sense in the whole grand scheme of things, but she just gets fooled a lot throughout all of these stories, and it's somewhat disappointing because she is supposed to be the best. She is Aderlin's assassin, and so some of these things that are taking her by surprise is a little bit disappointing. So anyways, she's able to take out Jane, but she ends up getting captured by Farran. Now, Farran wants to have his fun with her. He is known for his torturous abilities, but turns out the king comes to collect Celaena. Now, Farran was actually contracted to deliver Celaena to the king. So now the king is dealing with Celaena's sentence, and she makes one snide comment to him saying, hey, make it quick, thinking that the king is going to sentence her to death. If you've read Throne of Glass, you already know what's going to happen. The king, just out of spite, sends her to Endovir. Not many people make it there. Not many prisoners make it even a month before they end up perishing. So Sam is dead. Arobynn has betrayed her yet again. I don't know when this girl is ever going to figure that out. It goes to show that in this book, because it's written in the third person, Celaena isn't privy to the fact that Arobynn was behind all of this. It kind of crosses her mind, but in the end, she dismisses it, saying Arobynn would never do that. It couldn't possibly be him. So she's contemplating all these other assassins that could be behind this huge betrayal. But really, it's Arobynn. We hate Arobynn. So there you have it. I really enjoyed it. I did. It took me a long time to get through, but I rated this a solid 4 stars out of 5. Throne of Glass for me was a 5-star read. I got through that one a lot quicker, but overall, I really enjoyed this one. So I hope that this was helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that way you can stay up to date on bookish content. There will be more Sarah J. Maas readings that I'm really eager to get into, but for now, I'll go ahead and sign off.
This short story is only... So, you okay? You okay?
Celaena. Hey, baby.
Oh, okay, baby. And so